Fair play, Arsenal Football Club. Fair play. I'm going to start off by saying two things, right? Because I already know what people are going to say to me. Hate watch failed, for sure. It did fail today. But I want to say two things very clearly. The first thing I want to say is that Arsenal deserved the 3 points, in my opinion. I felt that they were the better team across 90 minutes. And ultimately, the second thing I want to say is, it doesn't matter how you win football matches as long as you win. And Arsenal did that today. So I'm not going to take anything away from them. They got the 3 points. I do feel like over 90 minutes, they were the better team. They did deserve the 3 points. But let's be honest. There are some underlying truths I feel like we do need to discuss, okay? Of course, the game itself, there was a lot of things that happened for both teams. Arsenal, you could say, were quite nervy, quite anxious, especially towards the end of the game where Chelsea obviously had a goal disallowed, offside. And for Chelsea, I felt like it was more so self-destruction. I felt like Chelsea are going to be very disappointed with themselves. I felt like they could have easily have got a result today. They could have easily have done it. And that's kind of been the theme of their season, pretty much, is self-destruction. I think like that's their 9th player this season that's been sent off. So Pedro Neto getting sent off today, it's the 9th player. Listen to what I'm saying to you. The 9th player to get sent off. You could almost fill an entire team of players that have been sent off this season for Chelsea. So Chelsea have their own problems. But in terms of Arsenal, there are two truths. Like I said, I want to sort of unpack, right? Because I know a lot of people will deflect it by simply saying, we got the 3 points and ultimately you need to grind out results, which Arsenal did, to be fair. They did. They grinded out the result. And that's what you need to do when you're chasing a title and trying to win a title. But the first thing is, Arsenal are a very average team when it comes to open play. We can't dispute that. You can argue as much as you want, but when it comes to open play, I think they're a very much average team. Now, again today, set pieces. I know a lot of people are going to run their jokes and say set piece FC. I'm not going to really do that because at the end of the day, ultimately, you need to earn your set pieces. And how do you do that? By pressuring the other team. And then if you can score them, then you know you can't knock them for doing that. They got their set pieces and they scored their goals. It's as simple as that. However, it doesn't negate the fact that they are a very much average side when it comes to open play. The second thing I'm going to say here is that the anxiety, the anxiousness, the nerves, it's becoming a matter of when and not if Arsenal are going to bottle it. Call me a hater if you want, but I just don't see this being sustainable for Arsenal. I'll be honest with you. Coming to this running now where Man City have started to catch form and they have caught form at the right time of the season. Because it's all nice having that form early on in the season, peaking in November, December. But this is the time that matters. March, April to May, this is crunch time now. This is what we used to call squeaky bum time, right? And this is the time where you really need to hit gear. And I still don't feel like, yes, Arsenal got a great result last weekend against Spurs. And now they got a result against Chelsea. Yes, great. But when I'm looking at the performances across, even today in Chelsea games, at times, it's not good enough. And when you see City playing the way they are right now with players coming into form, if I'm an Arsenal fan, I'll be nervous. I'm not going to lie. And you can sense it. You can sense it almost every game. You're just thinking, when are Arsenal going to fumble it? And then right at the end, you see Chelsea had a couple of chances, even with 10 men, had a couple of chances to still get back into the game. So I do feel like if Chelsea had 11 men, I do feel like they were capable of getting a result today. And again, that comes down to Chelsea. And I'm going to discuss Chelsea as well because I feel like Chelsea, which has been pretty much the theme of their season, is that every time they've had opportunities, you know, to kick on or move on in their season, it's kind of almost like they shoot themselves in the foot. Today, again, Pedro Neto, I don't know what he was thinking about. I don't know what was going through his mind. You know you're on a yellow card, yet you decide to lunge in like that. It's not making sense for me at all. In that kind of moment, in a game like that, you know, when you know what's at stake, especially for Chelsea, when you know you're changing Champions League football, you would expect players of that caliber at that level to think a bit better. Especially Pedro Neto, you think, okay, in that moment there's no need to lunge. He's so far away from the goal, from the box. Leave it to the next player to deal with it. Why do you need to lunge in like that? So ultimately, Chelsea cost themselves today. I feel like they could have easily have gotten a result. But it is what it is. Arsenal fans are not going to complain. They got their 3 points. The goals obviously came from Saliba and Timber, again, from set pieces. And obviously, Chelsea scored their goal through Nketiah on goal, which, again, a little bit controversial. Because just moments before that, I did feel like Declan Rice did handle the ball there. And there was going to be a bit of a debate in terms of whether or not that was a handball. But I do feel like, one, he's encroaching on top of Hato. That's one part. And then on top of that, he's also lifted his arm up. So for me, I'm not going to lie to you. I think that was a handball. he did kind of get away with it, but it didn't matter in the end because I feel like the goals cancelled each other out. So, like I said, in terms of the actual game, I do feel like across 90 minutes, I do feel like Arsenal were the better team. I do think they were the better team, and I do think that ultimately they did deserve the 3 points. However, I do feel like Chelsea, had they had 11 men, they could have possibly got something out of the game. So, yeah, look, I know I'm an Arsenal hater. I don't want to see Arsenal win the title. I think I've made that clear. Everyone knows that at this point. I don't want Arsenal to win. And the question is, do I think they're going to win the title? I still don't think they're going to win the title. And yeah, you might say that's me hating, but I look at the way Arsenal are performing. I look at their performances across the games right now, currently. It's not inspiring. It feels structured. It feels regimented. I watch Arsenal and it's almost like I'm watching a scientific research project. It's boring, it's dull, and it's almost like they're playing for set pieces to then get the goals. And if that's what you have to rely on to win football matches, I'm sorry, that's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable because what happens when teams nullify your set pieces? But then what do? And then again, on top of that, you can sense the anxiousness. You look at today's game, you can sense the anxiety. Just through watching it through the TV, you can see the anxiety in the fans, in the players. You can see like the way the players are interacting. You can see David Raya, Declan Rice, they're all nervous. Gabriel, nervous. It's almost like, I understand, 3 years in a row, you've finished second. Right, so it is a bit of PTSD. There is trauma. You can sense it in the way they're playing football. You can sense it in the way they're trying to close out games. But do I think that's sustainable? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. And I think the experience, and ultimately what I do think is that it's the experience of Man City, the experience that Pep Guardiola has and a lot of those players have, it's going to show in the end. Because I do feel like this is a time where you need to be calm, you need to be composed, and you need to see out games and have different ways of winning football matches. I don't feel like Arsenal have different ways of winning football matches. I feel like they have one way of doing it, and it's usually from set pieces or crosses. And I'm sorry, I just don't see how you can do that from game to game to game and not fumble it. I do feel like I said, it's not a matter of if for me anymore. It's a matter of when. When are you going to fumble it? Every game I always sense like Arsenal can fumble it. And today it almost happened again against a 10-man Chelsea side. So it'll be interesting to see how the season goes. Of course, as an Arsenal fan, as Arsenal Football Club, they're not going to complain. You got the job done today. They grinded a result. They got that gap that they needed to breathe a little bit. But Man City do have a game in hand. So it is going to be an interesting title race to come towards the end of the season. I do think it's going to go right down to the wire. I do think there'll be a couple of more twists and turns. But if you had to ask me right now, if you had to put a gun to my head and tell me who I think is going to win the title, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to back Man City. I'm going to back Man City simply because they've shown the calmness already. You saw the game against Leeds yesterday. You saw the game against Newcastle. They're hitting form at the right time. Yes, earlier in the season they were shaky, but I think with the additions of Semenyo, with the addition of Guehi, they look a much stronger side now. They look a much stronger side. Players are starting to hit form. Rodri is slowly catching form. He's getting his fitness levels up. So now I do think they're going to be a problem for Arsenal come towards the end of the season. And that game at the Etihad, I feel like will be the title decider. Whoever wins that game will ultimately get the advantage, and I feel like we'll ultimately get the momentum to then go and win the title. But also the Carabao Cup final, which obviously happens a few weeks before that, will play a big part. That will play a big part psychologically. I think whoever wins that game also will have a psychological edge. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few weeks go. But if you had to ask me who I'm gonna back, even as a United fan, I'm gonna say Man City, because I just think the experience ultimately will show. I think the experience and the quality will show. I think Man City have different ways of winning football matches. They don't rely on one way, and I think they have a lot more quality on the pitch. I think they have more game changers on the pitch to win and decide football matches than Arsenal do. So for me, I'm gonna back up Man City to win the title. One, because I generally do think they're the better team. I feel like they're the better team and they have the experience. And secondly, because I simply don't want Arsenal to win. It's as simple as that. I am an Arsenal hater. I'm a proud Arsenal hater, and it is what it is. Shoot me for it if you want. But we also do have to talk about Manchester United, the champions. You might as well add it to the playlist, man. You might as well add it to the playlist at this point, because I'm telling you now, forget fourth, forget fifth. I think we're going to finish comfortably third. And it was never in doubt today. I'll be honest with you. It was never in doubt. Yes, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous. That first half performance I felt like was shocking. We had a very slow start. Lecrox obviously got the goal very early on, a few minutes in, and it was a very much sloppy, slow in build up. a lot of errors, a lot of unforced errors in that first half. A couple defensive lapses as well. I felt like Luke Shaw was quite shaky to the start of the game. And also Lenny Yoro, in that Crocs goal as well, I felt like Lenny Yoro was very poor as well. I felt like he lost his man way too easily and gave the Crocs a lot of space to then guide that header into the far corner. So, yeah, very slow first half, very poor first half. I don't feel like we created too many clear-cut chances. We had a couple of chances, obviously, through Casemiro and Sesko as well, but it wasn't a great first half. I felt like the midfield, again, very poor, a lot of unforced errors. And yeah, I felt like Crystal Palace deserved to leave that at half-time. And I'm not gonna lie, the nerves started to kick in. The PTSD from Amorim started to kick in because I started to feel like it was one of those games where we don't really get back into it. Once that early goal went in, I felt like it was starting to feel a bit uninspiring. I felt like we weren't finding ways to get back into the game. But second half, the guys, credit to them, they came out urgency. They showed a lot of urgency. They showed a lot more fight, a lot more desire. And we straight away got the reward for it. We got the penalty. Obviously, Crocs fouled Cunha, which a lot of people argued about whether or not it was a penalty. It did start outside the box and ended in the box, so therefore it was a penalty, and he was the last man, so it was denying a goal scored opportunity. So I felt like the correct decision was made. It was 100% a penalty, and Bruno does what Bruno does best, and he puts it away. Of course, Bruno Fernandes, again, what a season he's having. I don't think it was one of his best performances, though, if I'm being entirely honest. I don't think it was one of his best performances, but the best players are the ones that, even when they're not performing well, still decide games. And of course, he puts his penalty away, but that's not the key part I want to highlight. The key part I want to highlight was his assist to Benjamin Sesko, who once again, scores another goal. I think that's his 7th goal already, I think in 2026. Hasib, is that correct? Is that his 7th goal?
Sesko has 7 goals in his last 8 appearances.
See, there you go. Yeah,
No player scored more non-penalty goals in the Premier League since the turn of.
So I was right. So 7 goals in his last 8 games. And yeah, look, of course, Sesko in the beginning of the season had a bit of a slow start, but I think he's finally arrived. The boy he's got a goal scoring knack at the moment. Whether it's starting, whether it's off the bench, it don't matter. He's going to score. They say Costco keeps the cost low, right? Tesco, they say every little helps. Sesko, he says he's going to score a goal. Yeah? You see little rhyming, you see what's going on there? You see what I did there? Yeah? Costco, Tesco, Sesko, Air Sesko, we have arrived. We finally arrived, and the boy is playing with confidence, man. The boy is just thriving at the moment. And right now, when you have a player like that in that kind of current form, you want him to play as much as they can. So I don't want to see him get dropped. I know he came off in the game, and which I was a bit disappointed about, because I felt like when you have a player that's on hot form like that, you want him to keep on. You want to keep him on the pitch as long as you can, because you don't know at any given moment he could score again. And I felt like, in a game like that where it's quite tense and you want to kind of get more breather space, I would have kept him on the pitch. But of course, my character's the coach. He made his changes, but ultimately, I felt like we deserved the 3 points. I felt like Bruno Fernandes, goal and assist. Like, what more can be said about him? I arguably think he's been the best player this season. I think he's worthy of a PFA Player of the Year award. Of course, usually that kind of goes to the player that wins the title. So usually if it's Arsenal or Man City, it would probably go to one of those players. But in terms of individual, I think he's by far the best player this season. I think he's probably, in terms of statistically, definitely the most performing player this season, but also just look at the way he's been performing across the season with the goals, with the assists. Been our most important player this season, and I just think he's hit another level this season. I know a lot of people will say, but this has been Bruno, and I've said it, this has been Bruno since he's arrived at Manchester, but this season it's hitting a bit different. And I do think it's to do with the fact that De Bruyne's not in the league anymore. I think the fact that De Bruyne's not in the league anymore was putting more eyes on Bruno, because I always felt like De Bruyne was the better player out of the two, and De Bruyne was probably the best midfielder in the league in that time as well. So now that he's gone, it kind of gives more spotlight to Bruno, and now people are starting to notice the type of player that he is and the quality that he's shown. So long may it continue. Champions League football, easily. I do feel like we will get Champions League football. I think that is something that at this point I don't see us fumbling, especially because we have one game a week. We're playing one game a week, so I don't see any reason as to why we can't get Champions League football. There's literally no excuses for us. You got Chelsea, who are still in other cups, just like Liverpool as well, playing in Champions League as well. So Aston Villa, I feel like they've kind of fallen off a little bit. They also do have European football, which will distract them. So for us, I think there's no reason why we can't get Champions League football. And I do see us finishing third comfortably as well. But yeah, it's a good place to be. That's 7 wins now out of 8 for Michael Carrick. 7 wins, 1 draw. Listen, Mikel Carrico, my amigo, he's arrived, man. And I think it's starting to show that this is not just a temporary thing. This is something that he's proven to be long-term. I think that if you look at some of the performances, yes, it hasn't been the best, but the best teams are the ones that get results regardless of whether or not, you know, they're playing well. Kind of like what Arsenal did today. You could say that maybe it wasn't their best performance, but they got the result. And that's what you kind of need to do in this league, especially when you want to win titles, you want to compete for the Champions League. The best teams are the ones that get results no matter what, whether they're playing well or not. And I think Man United are doing that currently. Like today wasn't one of our best performances. I think second half we improved a lot. But ultimately, the most important thing is the win. And we got that and we got the 3 points. So hopefully we could carry on with that form. That's no losses still in 2026. We're still the only undefeated team. Definitely in the Premier League. I'm not sure across all leagues in England, but definitely in the Premier League we're the only team to not lose. And it feels good, man. I can't lie to you. I'm moving with a different bounce. My energy's different. My mood's different. I'm in a different mental space right now, you know. I feel like a good person. I feel like a good human being now. You know, I'm walking around, I'm smiling. You know, I'm greeting people in the mornings. I'm saying, hi, how are you? Sometimes I get blanked, but I don't mind. I don't even mind getting blanked. Right now, we're in a good space. We're in a good position. And I do genuinely feel like we're one transfer window away from being a really competitive team. I think this summer, if we can really get that midfield sorted, and maybe add in another left back and an attacker and have a successful window. And when I mean successful window is making sure that most of our signings are a success. I know it's very difficult to, you know, ensure that every signing works out, but the window we had last summer, you could argue that every single one of them has been a success. Sesko, Cunha, Mbeumo, Lemens, every single one of those players have made an impact, you know, and has improved the quality of team. They've raised the ceiling of this team. So if we can have one more of those windows, specifically with the midfield, then I don't see why this team can't go on to win titles next season. I genuinely think they can compete. When you look at points tally in 2026 in the terms of the calendar year, we've got the highest. There's no team that has earned or won more points than us this season. So it'll be interesting to see. We've got Newcastle next on Wednesday, which is going to be another tough game away to St. James Park. We may not have Shaw and Maguire, who have been, for me, 2 of our best performers in terms of defensively this season. So we might be traveling down there without them, which is going to be a huge loss because obviously Maguire with his physicality and Luke Shaw with his form, they kind of need it, especially when it comes to playing against Newcastle, who are quite a physical team. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I can see us getting a result. Definitely, I can see it was right. And that's the difference now under Michael Carrick that I've noticed. The main difference under Michael Carrick that I've noticed that I didn't have that feeling under Amram, which is being confident going into every single game. With Amram, I felt like I was quite anxious going into every game because I genuinely didn't know what happened. He would come out in presses and tell us that he doesn't know what's going to happen. So you can imagine how we'd feel as fans going into every single game, not knowing what type of performance you're going to get, what type of result you're going to get, not even what team you're going to get. Whereas with Carrick, you can see the consistency in terms of the lineups. You can sort of work out what the lineup's going to be. You already kind of know how we're going to set up, how we're going to play. And we're the most informed team. Let's be honest. We're the most informed team statistically. We're playing with a lot of confidence right now. And we're winning football matches. So there's no reason why we can't go into every game feeling like we can win. And I'm sure even Newcastle, even though historically that is a tough game for us of recent years. And it's a tough place to go for any team in the Premier League. But I do feel confident going into that game. I do feel like we can get a result. And yeah, I do think we're going to still secure that Champions League football, and it'll be exciting, man. I'm excited to see my team back in the big leagues. It's been a long while, and it's a place where we belong. Manchester United should be playing Champions League football. It's actually a travesty that we're only playing 40 games this season. Being knocked out in the first round of the Carabao Cup, being knocked out in the first round in the FA Cup. It's been a weird season. I'll be honest with you. It's been a weird season because we've had some really down times, but we've also had some up times as well. And you could see the trajectory as well. That's the thing. You can actually see the trajectory this season. You can see that we've improved a lot this season. But yeah, those 2 early eliminations kills us. The fact that we're not playing European football kills us. So yeah, I think it's one of those seasons that it's a stepping stone for us, for this team anyway. We're in transition. So hopefully we carry on having this form. Hopefully we finish the season strong. Hopefully secure that Champions League football and then look forward to next season. But Newcastle, Wednesday. That is the next game. Please let me know in the comments what you think in terms of the both games. So the Arsenal and Chelsea game, as well as the United Crystal Palace game. Let me know your thoughts on terms of what you thought about both games, about the teams in those games. Also, Crystal Palace, I want to give them some credit as well, because I didn't feel like I mentioned them, but they did really well, especially in that first half. They really played well. They had a lot of structure. They were really, really good at forcing errors and keeping us, at bay. But ultimately, I feel like the difference was the quality in players. I feel like the quality in our players showed in that second half, and that's ultimately what kind of got us the result. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Also, your predictions for next game. But until next time, peace.